Good evening, hello and welcome to the news today. This is your primetime destination news, newsmakers, talking points here on the news today. Tuesday night, our big talking point tonight, the big battle for Jammu and Kashmir, the first election since Article 370. We'll be joined by our newsmaker, former Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Omar Abdullah joins us. Also, we have an exclusive, the BMC Commissioner in Mumbai on Mumbai's new COVID norms, including the night curfew that's back. All that and much more on the news today. But first, as always, the news headline. A big lead for the Gupkar alliance of the National Conference, PDP and other valley-based parties in the Jammu and Kashmir local body polls. The BJP opens its account in Srinagar, takes a lead in the Jammu region. The Gupkar says it's a verdict against the abrogation of Article 370. Prime Minister Narendra Modi reaches out to Muslim youth, calls Aligarh Muslim University a mini India, asks students to put nation over ideology in his AMU centenary celebration address. First shipment of coronavirus vaccine likely to reach Delhi next week. Preparations for vaccine storage and training of health workers is underway. No CBSE board exams till March 2021. Education Ministry says dates to be decided later as environment not conducive now for offline exams. 34 persons including cricketer Suresh Raina, singer Guru Randhawa, designer Suzanne Khan released after being booked for COVID violations following raids at a Mumbai pub. Security scaled up at Delhi's borders as more farmers march towards the national capital. Farmer unions say decision on talks with the Modi government tomorrow. 28 years later, Kerala court convicts Catholic priest and a nun in the 1992 Sister Abhaya murder case. Quantum of punishment to be pronounced tomorrow. Mamata Banerjee's point-by-point counter to BJP leader Amit Shah's no development in Bengal claim, says state's growth rate higher than India, accuses BJP of terming suicides as political murders. And Baloch activist Karima Baloch found dead in Canada. The 35-year-old who was vocal critic of Pakistan government had escaped to Canada in 2016. But our big story comes from the first election that's taken place in Jammu and Kashmir since the abrogation of Article 370. The results of the district council elections are now more or less out. Overall leads and wins of the 280. The Gupkar alliance of parties like the National Conference, the PDP, parties of the valley, 103. So they have a clear edge. The BJP has 75. The Apni party, which was formed, has 10. The Congress has 24. Others 66. So clearly a clear lead for the Gupkar alliance, and they have dominated the valley while the BJP has done very well in the Jammu region. In fact, all of this leads us to our big story today, because the Kashmir-centric Gupkar alliance has prevented what some were calling a potential saffron breach in the valley, maintaining its lead in the Jammu and Kashmir District Council polls. The poll outcome has also exposed the regional divide between Jammu and Kashmir. While the BJP has held its ground in Jammu, Kashmir has sided with the Gupkar alliance. It is our top story today.
The first major poll battle in Jammu and Kashmir after the abrogation of Article 370. The District Development Council elections, the first since 1947 and made possible by the scrapping of the special status, has exposed the fault lines between Jammu and Kashmir. It was a direct contest between the Gupkar alliance and the Bharatiya Janata Party. As expected, the alliance of Valley's mainstream parties dominated Kashmir, while the BJP held its ground in Jammu, its traditional bastion.
It's an encouraging sign, one because people have come out and participated in elections in a greater number than they did in 2018. It's also an encouraging sort of pat on the back for the People's Alliance, because we are a fledgling alliance. So it's been an uphill task for us, coupled with the way in which the BJP used every single ounce of machinery at its disposal.
The BJP, however, opened its account in the valley, where its central leaders carried out an aggressive poll campaign.
पूरे जम्मू कश्मीर के अंदर जिला परिषद के चुनावों के नतीजों में भारतीय जनता पार्टी का शानदार प्रदर्शन रहा है। भारतीय जनता पार्टी ने जहां जम्मू संभाग के अंदर जबरदस्त स्वीप किया है, वहीं कश्मीर घाटी में भी कमल का फूल खिला है।
The polls were being seen as a referendum on last year's constitutional changes in Jammu and Kashmir. To that extent, the valley has overlooked corruption probes against Kashmiri leaders to back the Gupkar alliance. The BJP, however, can take heart from its performance in Jammu and the peaceful conduct of elections, which could now pave way for the assembly polls. With Sunil Bhatt in Jammu and Shuja in Srinagar, Bureau Report, India Today.
Let's go straight across to our first newsmaker tonight. Omar Abdullah is joining us, Vice President of the Jammu and Kashmir National Conference, former Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir. Appreciate your joining us, Mr. Abdullah. How do you see these results? Do they only widen the divide between Jammu and the Kashmir Valley? Or do you believe that this is actually a vindication of your stand against Article 370 because you've done so well in the Kashmir Valley?
Well, your question has two parts, and I'll answer both parts. One, no, it doesn't widen the gap between Jammu and Kashmir because your basic premise is flawed. Jammu has not voted en masse for the BJP, as your reporter in Jammu, Mr. Sunil Bhatt, seems to want to convince everybody. Out of 20 districts in Jammu and Kashmir, only 5 districts have shown a margin or a majority for the BJP. 13 districts have gone to the People's Alliance for the Gupkar Declaration, and 2 districts are still up for grabs. So I don't see how your correspondent in Jammu can claim, or even for that matter the BJP can claim, that this is some resounding victory in Jammu for the BJP, and we have only managed to open our account in the valley. I made this point on a tweet not so long ago, that I can understand this euphoria over the 3 BJP seats in the valley. But one second, let me finish. You're overlooking the fact that the People's Alliance has either won or is leading in 35 segments in Jammu province. 35 segments in Jammu province versus the 3 segments of the BJP in the valley. So your basic premise about the gap between Jammu and Kashmir widening is not correct.
The fact is that the BJP is at the moment leading in about 70 seats in the Jammu region. They've only won 3 in the valley. The point I am making is that in Jammu they are the number 1 party, while you are by far the number 1 party in the Kashmir Valley. I'm just trying to understand, therefore, and we've seen this in recent elections as well, when assembly elections have been held, this widening gap between what Jammu wants and what Srinagar wants. Has this election bridged that divide or widened it?
No, but Rajdeep, but then look at, I understand the BJP has taken 70 in Jammu and only 3 in the valley.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Now I can understand your premise about a widening gap if we had swept the valley and only taken 3 in Jammu. But we've taken 35 in Jammu, or are in the process of taking 35 in Jammu, compared to the BJP's 3 in Kashmir. So it clearly shows that we have far wider acceptability in Jammu than the BJP has in the valley. So where is the divide? We in fact have been able to straddle the divide between Jammu and Kashmir with our agenda, which the BJP has been unable to do. We have been able to open up leads in 35 segments or win 35 segments in Jammu, and the BJP has only been able to take 3 in the valley.
Are you therefore saying,
we deserve a lot of credit for actually narrowing the divide?
Okay,
and as I pointed out right in the beginning,
Go ahead.
What?
Let me ask the main question, which which is the central issue. Therefore, if you
No,
say,
carry on.
if you
Sorry,
say,
you are asking.
if you say you have wider acceptability, does that mean that you believe this mandate is of the people who do not want Article 370, who did not want Article 370 to be in any way abrogated, or Jammu and Kashmir to be reduced from a full-fledged state to a union territory? Do you believe this is in a sense a vindication of what stand you have been taking?
Yes, not just in a sense, it is a vindication. It is a vindication. And it's the BJP that made this the issue. We didn't even come out and campaign. It's the BJP that made this all about an endorsement of their 5th August 2019 decision. They are the ones who hyped up this election. They sent union ministers, they sent senior leaders, they pumped in tons of money. They flooded the airwaves with advertisements on television, on the radio, and elsewhere. And finally were only able to win 4 or 5 districts in Jammu, and were resoundingly defeated even in the valley. So it's the BJP that hyped the stakes in this election, and yes, gave us an opportunity to say that that our mandate, that our agenda has been given a stamp of approval by the majority of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. We never claimed to have the support of 100% of the population. But in a first past the post parliamentary democracy, you talk from a position of majority. Prime Minister Modi doesn't win 100% of the votes to become Prime Minister. In fact, if anything, he doesn't get more than 35 or 38% of the country's votes. But he claims a mandate for the entire country. We have far more than that percentage of votes, and therefore can quite proudly claim to have a mandate for the entire country.
I want to ask you
Sorry,
this,
for
though,
the entire state of Jammu and Kashmir.
No, that while you say that the BJP made Article 370 part of its core issue in this election, you, on the other hand, formed an alliance, a people's alliance for the Gupkar Declaration. So you also, in a way, made the abrogation and what happened in August 2019 part of your core issue. In fact, adversaries in the valley came together, you, Mehbooba Mufti, Sajjad Lone, to that extent.
It is our only issue,
yes.
Rajdeep. It's not our core, it's not part of our core issue. It is our issue. It is our only issue. When our name says the People's Alliance for the Gupkar Declaration,
yes,
and the Gupkar Declaration is centered around 5th August 2019, we make no bones about the fact that that is our fight. We have always maintained that we will use peaceful, democratic, legal means to fight for what was illegally snatched from the people of Jammu and Kashmir. We don't pussyfoot around our agenda. We are very clear about where we stand.
I want to ask you, though, if you believe, therefore, that this is a vindication of your stand on Article 370, do you believe that the next logical step, therefore, should be that the government should relook at it? Or is it that you would wait till there is a full-fledged election, a state election, in an assembly election in Jammu and Kashmir before you can lay claim to that? Do you believe at least that this election now lays the groundwork for a potential full-fledged election for an assembly in Jammu and Kashmir?
Unfortunately, this result has pushed our assembly elections even further away. With the kind of really disastrous results that the BJP has had, there is no way they are going to have an assembly election anytime in the near future. And therefore, our fight will have to continue outside of the assembly of Jammu and Kashmir. In an ideal world, we would have already had assembly elections, or at least assembly elections on the immediate horizon. But I don't foresee an assembly election anytime soon, perhaps not for the next few years. And therefore, our fight will necessarily have to continue in the court of public opinion and in the court of law.
It's very interesting that you're saying that, Omar Abdullah, that your fight on Article 370 will then carry out outside the electoral process, because before the elections, a number of leaders from the Kashmir Valley were claiming that the entire election was being rigged, there was no level playing field, that that the enforcement agencies were being used against y'all. And yet, at the end of the day, will you at least concede that democracy has won? Now that you have won, or as you claim you've done so well in both regions, that maybe Indian democracy is actually still thriving, and many of those allegations that the elections would be rigged or subverted.
Rajdeep, one result doesn't sort of wipe out all the wrongs that were done. The fact that we were able to withstand all these attacks against us doesn't mean that our allegations were not true. It is a fact that our candidates were locked up in hotels and guest houses and were being denied the opportunity to campaign. It is a fact that most of my people went out to campaign without any semblance of security. It is a fact that central agencies turned their attentions towards Jammu and Kashmir and particularly towards leaders of the People's Alliance during this election process. All of these are facts, but it is also a fact that the voters of Jammu and Kashmir were able to rise above all of these challenges. The candidates of the People's Alliance were able to rise above all these challenges and deliver the results that
So
are in
you
front of you.
won't give any credit to the Modi government for conducting a free and fair poll, an issue which has always generated controversy in the Kashmir Valley. Will you concede that maybe the Modi government gave you a free and fair poll? Or gave us a free and fair poll?
The Modi government doesn't need my certificate. If the Modi government needed my certificate, things in Jammu and Kashmir would have been very different. The fact of the matter is there was no level playing field. We produced the results that we did in spite of the challenges that we faced. There was no level playing field.
Okay, so let me ask you in conclusion, what will you tell the BJP leaders who in the past, including Home Minister Amit Shah, who have suggested your alliance is anti-national, called you the Gupkar gang for the People's Alliance? What will you tell them? Do you believe? What next is what I really want to know. What happens next? Does the valley come, does Jammu and Kashmir come back to some semblance of democratic normalcy?
Rajdeep, the voice of the people is the voice of God. If the BJP truly believes in democracy, then they will respect the verdict of the people of Jammu and Kashmir.
And that verdict, you believe, is for reversing what the decisions of August 2019, restoring statehood. Am I correct?
That verdict is to understand that the decision of 5th August 2019 is not acceptable to an overwhelming majority of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. And if you had had these elections in Kargil and Leh, you would have got a majority of people voting against 5th August 2019 from Leh and Kargil as well.
Okay. Omar Abdullah, plain speaking, as always, appreciate your joining us. As I said, your months in detention only seem to have increased the fire in you. So you're speaking as you see it. I appreciate your joining us and telling us where you stand. Thank you very much. Omar Abdullah there, joining us at this moment. Now, some big questions need to be raised. What do the Jammu and Kashmir Council polls really mean? That you heard from Omar Abdullah, but I want to widen this. Is there a divide between Jammu and Kashmir? Omar Abdullah says no, but we'll try and look at that as well. These are some of the questions I want to raise at this moment. I'm joined by special guests. Amitabh Mattu is joining me. Amitabh Mattu is one of the country's foremost analysts of Jammu and Kashmir, has been Vice Chancellor of Jammu University and also an advisor to the government of Mufti Mohammad Saeed. Sajjad Lone is President of People's Conference, one of the parties that was part of this Gupkar alliance. And I'm also joined by Sambit Patra, the BJP's evergreen spokesperson. Why don't you take that first, Dr. Patra? You heard what Omar Abdullah said. He said this is a resounding victory for the Gupkar alliance across the valley. They are the #1 party and therefore their stand on Article 370 has been vindicated. Do you accept that?
First and foremost, I would like to congratulate every Kashmiri today. I would like to congratulate the forces in Kashmir. I would like to congratulate the electoral process that took place in Kashmir so successfully. It was a victory, in fact, today for the democracy of this country, because remember, this debate, this election was not only watched in India, it was watched globally. And today, the world would be saluting India for such a peaceful democratic process, with 51.76% of people in Jammu and Kashmir casting their vote. 4,181 contestants in fray, and salute to the women, 450 lady contestants, women contestants in the fray, and most importantly the Valmikis and the refugees casting their vote in Jammu Kashmir election for the first time.
You didn't answer my
and
question.
Remember, I would like to congratulate.
We all,
Yeah, I'm
we all
going to, because
congratulate our
democracy is
democratic process in Jammu and Kashmir, but you didn't answer my question. Let's be very clear. The Gupkar Alliance
No.
is the #1 party of Jammu and Kashmir. Does that mean, as Omar Abdullah suggests, that this is a vindication of their stand on Article 370?
Number one, first and foremost, let me put on the results over here. As of now, BJP is the largest party. If you see the alliance of 7 parties and the others, the independents, etc., we have as of now, which is declared results, 41, and we have received the maximum number of votes, 2,15,884 as of now, compared to National Conference, 37 seats, 1,14,984.
No, you can't change the goalpost there, Dr. Patra. Pre-poll coalition. No, Dr. Patra, you're changing the goalpost. A pre-poll alliance has got more seats than you. You said you fought the election in support of your stand on Article 370. They fought it on their stand. They have got more seats than you. First past the post.
Okay. Number one, as far as abrogation of Article 370 is concerned, it was a mentioned point in the manifesto of Bharatiya Janata Party right from the day of inception of Bharatiya Janata Party in 6th April 1980. We have fought all our elections on this basic ground of abrogation of Article 370. We got a mandate in 2014 and Modi ji got the mandate in 2019 based on this manifesto, and that is why abrogation of Article 370, if you call this election as a referendum, I would say that 2019 and 2014 were also referendum. And remember, if referendum is the word that is used, then parliament is the ground where this referendum counts. Elected parliamentarians through a democratic process,
I didn't use the word referendum, I said vindication.
Abrogated a transient.
Is it a vindication of the stand of those who have said that they don't want Jammu and Kashmir to be reduced to a union territory or Article 370 to be withdrawn?
No, it's not a vindication. No, absolutely not. It's not a vindication, because a temporary and a transient abrogation of an article is to be done on the floor of the parliament. And since the parliamentarians are elected people and it functions in a democratic manner to abrogate Article 370, we stand as Indians vindicated about abrogation of Article 370.
Okay. Dr. Patra, you're an intelligent spokesperson, so you're finding, of course, an answer to these questions in your own way, which you are entitled to. Sajjad Lone, how do you see this? Is it to be seen simply in the context of Article 370? As I said earlier to Omar Abdullah as well, the BJP has done very well in Jammu. The Gupkar Alliance has swept the valley. Is that reason enough to say that the people of Jammu and Kashmir want a return to a pre-August 2019 situation?
Rajiv, I personally am a very happy person today. After 13, 14 months of a political deadlock, a hard policy by New Delhi, I'm happy that today people came out and voted in large numbers. I don't believe that there's a divide between Jammu and Kashmir. When you look at Jammu and Kashmir, you look at the total result. And I won't cross words with Mr. Sambit Patra on who won more number of seats. All I can say is there is something for all of us to rejoice. First of all, people came in large numbers. They reposed their faith in the Indian Constitution, right? We did have apprehensions and there were some problems, but to be fair enough, these problems are there even with political governments. I would say I have millions of differences with the union government, with the current LG, ideological differences, although it's a constitutional post. But elections were held, largely fair, and we had a lot of apprehension. There were some problems. Yes, candidates were stopped from apparently for security reasons. But there are convergences. It is a victory for all of us. Let Mr. Patra not think it's about grassroots democracy today. Grassroots democracy has come up. And let Mr. Patra look at the commonalities. We have both won. Numbers don't matter here. What matters today is that you have started a political process. Time to take a back seat, forget about attacking each other and congratulating each other.
It's interesting you're saying that, Sajjad Lone, because when I asked this question to Omar Abdullah, whether this paves the way in a sense for the electoral process to be restored, assembly elections to be held, he said no. He said the BJP will not want to hold assembly elections given this verdict, because this verdict has gone, he believes, in favor of the Gupkar Alliance. Do you see it that way, Sajjad Lone, that the BJP will now hesitate before restoring the political process fully in the valley?
No, I can't speak on, I possibly can't speak on behalf of BJP what they want to do. But all I'm saying is that after a tumultuous time in which we've been in jail, we've seen a lot of bad times, this is a start. Let us put the bad times behind us. I just hope and pray that they emulate the respect for constitution which the people of Kashmir have seen, and Mr. Amitabh Mattu is there. In the context of Kashmir, the number of people who participate is a very important variable. And as Mr. Patra said, it's watched not only in India, but outside India also. They have shown a lot of respect for constitution. Now the ball is in their court. They have to reciprocate that respect for constitution, which the people of Jammu and Kashmir have shown today.
Let me
The
take-
ball is in their court.
I-
People have come out.
Yeah.
They have voted. It's a victory for all of us. It's a victory for grassroots democracy. I'm saying with whatever hiccups, yes, there were hiccups, but at the end of the day, in the morning, I was very, very apprehensive. Today, I am a happy man, and we have won. I'm saying
No,
with a
that's
lot of
my worry.
humility,
Had you
with a lot
lost,
of confidence.
you would have blamed the center. Now that you have won, you at least have faith.
Rajdeep, if I am going out of my way to compliment the center, why are you putting a counter thing that if we had lost,
Fair
we
enough.
would attack the center? No,
Okay.
we did not give any statement in the morning or before that elections are going to be rigged. We did not. We
Okay.
did at times talk
Yesterday
about
there were apprehensions being
candidates.
expressed. Yesterday there were apprehensions being expressed when there were reports that a few leaders had been detained. But let's look at
We
today.
did not issue a lot of. We did not make a song and dance about it. We just issued one statement. That's it.
Okay.
But all I'm saying is, it's a victory for grassroots democracy. And as I told you, I thank the local administration. Government of India should be happy today. There is nothing to be unhappy about. Numbers don't matter. It's a much larger victory.
That's an
They should
interesting
look at
way
the
to put it.
commonality.
That's an interesting way to put it, Sajjad Lone. Numbers don't matter. Democracy has
Rajdeep.
triumphed. Do you agree with this?
That one, and
Just a
let me
minute.
take one thing.
Yeah,
It's
let
a
me go to
resounding
Professor
victory.
Mattu. He's been
It
waiting.
is a resounding victory. Let me keep that on. Like it's a
Okay.
resounding victory. But with all humility at my command, I say that our numbers don't matter. They're big numbers, very big, decisively victorious. But I'm saying they don't matter. What matters is the larger interest of all of us.
Amitabh Mattu, do you agree with that? That in a way, the relatively high voter turnout, the fact that the elections were held with limited violence, the fact that you had a competitive election in which the BJP has made a breakthrough of sorts, one would call, say in Srinagar, the Gupkar alliance has done well across the valley and in some parts of Jammu. The Congress has done also well in some parts. Does that suggest democracy is vibrant and people actually want a return to a pre-August 29 situation? Is that one interpretation?
Rajdeep, let me take off from where Sajjad left and do an audit. As an academic, let me do an audit of these elections. I think in terms of the positives, it's clear that this is an occasion on which the people of Jammu and Kashmir have given democracy a robust chance. The number of people who came out non-violently, expressed their faith, doesn't matter who they voted for, but they voted for parties who believe in the Constitution of India as it exists. And that itself is a great tribute to the resilience of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. The second is, in some ways, you asked the question, which is, does this widen the divide? I would like to suggest that what it does is give us an occasion for both the Gupkar alliance to declare victory, which they did by scoring the number of seats that they did in Kashmir. But equally in BJP has won a large number of seats in Jammu, also made a foray in Kashmir. Both can declare victory. But third and most important is that this is a beginning. This is a beginning of a sign, a glimmer of great hope that democracy in its robustness as it exists elsewhere in the rest of India will return to Jammu and Kashmir, whether it is in the form of an early restoration of statehood, which is the promise made by the Prime Minister and the Home Minister, or the elections, or even small gestures
No,
like
let me put that to you. Let me
internet
put that to you,
connectivity.
Professor Mattu. Do you believe this election should lead to an early restoration of statehood at least?
I think I genuinely believe that the manner in which people have voted and expressed faith in democracy, this is an example for other states. If there was a case to be made for the return of statehood, it would be in Jammu and Kashmir. Let me say frankly, I'm a little disheartened that the Congress has performed very poorly, and that is only because they couldn't choose between their heart, which lay with the Gupkar alliance, and their head, which suggested that they would lose out in the rest of India if they identified with the valley. So the Congress and Apni party does not seem to have carved out the niche that one thought it would, because ultimately they seem to have got squeezed between the BJP and the Gupkar alliance. But frankly, on this day, as I said, that you have non-violent polls in Jammu and Kashmir with such significant voting, you have to have followed elections in Jammu and Kashmir with the same regularity and intensity that I have to realize what a big breakthrough this is. Even if it's grassroots democracy, it's an expression of faith. But do not lose this opportunity. I would suggest, in all humility, a phrase that Sajjad has used. Let me add to that humility and also reach out to Dr. Sambit Patra that the Prime Minister of India and the Home Minister must use this opportunity now to build
Let me
democracy and institutional democracy in all its forms back to and give Jammu and Kashmir statehood back at the earliest possible moment.
Dr. Patra, you're hearing both Sajjad Lone and Amitabh Mattu saying this is a moment to celebrate grassroots democracy. Is the BJP recognizing that maybe this is the next step towards statehood? Because until now, the kind of language that has been used, the Gupkar gang, suggesting that people are anti-national, the kind of invectives used, the time may be to step back and let people decide who they want. Don't call someone a gang or anti-nationals. It's time perhaps to take people along. Do you believe that the time has come therefore to restore full statehood?
Rajdeep, you had a long question. Allow me some
No, it's a
time
short question.
Uninterrupted. Number one, I began my, in fact, answers, the first speaker I was, and I began by congratulating the democracy of Jammu Kashmir. I began by congratulating the people of Jammu and Kashmir. I began by congratulating the 450 women candidate of Jammu Kashmir, the Valmikis and the West Pakistani refugees who casted their vote for the first time. And who restored this democracy after all these eons, I would say? Of course, Modi ji and Amit Shah ji, whom you are asking questions today. There were apprehensions till yesterday night and today morning. And remember, none other than Mehbooba Mufti came out to say that this is an attempt to manipulate the elections. Omar Abdullah, only a few minutes ago, I was listening to him. He said that, well, yes, this was kind of rigging going on and all that. He said that. And now suddenly when you win the number of, you win seats, you say that, well, yes, it is victory of democracy. I agree it's victory of democracy. Who is responsible for the victory of democracy? My Prime Minister, your Prime Minister, Narendra Modi. Number two, as far as statehood is concerned, well, yes, who does not want statehood for Jammu and Kashmir? The earlier the merrier, the earlier the better. That is a promise that the Bharatiya Janata Party government has made on the floor of the parliament. Right. But a very important observation which none of you are mentioning. Remember, this is the beginning of the end of the dynastic rule in Jammu and Kashmir. Remember, the independents, the grassroots politicians have performed exceedingly well. They have got even more number of seats than PDP. This shows that people have become aware.
Let Sajjad respond to that.
People are aware of the fact that dynasty cannot take over grassroots level politics.
That's an interesting observation which Sajjad you should respond to. The fact is a number of independents have won as they do in local elections, but does this in a way suggest that new forces are also emerging?
New forces will emerge. There should be evolution, but I have a confession to make.
Yes.
This was a new alliance. And what you are seeing as independents might be disgruntled rebels of the constituents of the Gupkar alliance. So if I were in Dr. Patra's place, I would hold my horses and not talk about the independents.
Okay.
Most of them are rebels from our part.
Let's all, in a way, let's all press the pause button. Because what Jammu and Kashmir has gone through in the last 18 months is traumatic. Despite that, the people have come out, voted for the Gupkar alliance, voted for BJP, voted for other parties. It is possibly a real example of what robust democracy can do, it needs to be taken to its logical conclusion. The challenge lies before both the centre and indeed the people and the parties of Srinagar and Jammu. Sajjad Lone, Professor Mattu and Dr. Patra, thank you very much for joining me on my top talking point this evening. Thank you very much. Democracy in India, messy, chaotic, but somehow or the other pushes us forward. Let's hope that better times lie ahead of Jammu and Kashmir. Let's turn to our other big story where Maharashtra, one of the worst hit states or the worst hit state in the country due to COVID-19, has once again now decided to impose a night curfew starting tonight. This in view of the Christmas and New Year festivities and also the possibility of a new strain of COVID-19 reported in the United Kingdom. Remember, flights to and fro from the UK are being stopped from tonight. But a few VVIPs forgot that COVID isn't still over, and take a look at what the police of Mumbai have done to them.
High on revelry, these celebs find themselves in the middle of a controversy. Cricketer Suresh Raina, singer Guru Randhawa and celebrity designer Suzanne Khan were held by Mumbai police in a raid on Dragonfly, a popular nightclub near the city airport. The three celebrities accused of flouting COVID protocols were later released on bail. 34 others who allegedly violated COVID protocols and 7 staff members were also arrested.
188 of Disaster Management Act और 33W of मुंबई पुलिस एक्ट. तो इसमें इन लोगों को जो महिलाएं हैं उनको 41D का नोटिस देके उनको छोड़ा गया था. जो कस्टमर्स थे उनको अरेस्ट करके बेल आउट किया गया. मैनेजमेंट के लोगों पे कार्रवाई चल रही है पुलिस स्टेशन में.
The arrest comes even as Maharashtra has reimposed some curbs after the discovery of a mutated virus in the UK that is highly infectious. A night curfew has been imposed in all towns in the state from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. till January 5th. Travellers from across Europe and Middle East will have to undergo compulsory institutional quarantine. Maharashtra was the worst hit by coronavirus in the first wave of infections in India. Having gone through the ordeal once, the state government is now taking no chances. Bureau Report, India Today.
Yes, joining us now is the Bombay Municipal Commissioner, Mr. I.S. Chahal. Mr. Chahal, there is still confusion though whether your orders of a night curfew are a reaction to the UK COVID strain alone. Is this a panic reaction to what has happened? Why this sudden decision to go in for a night curfew? Is it because of the fear of Christmas and New Year parties, or is it because of the UK COVID strain?
Good afternoon, Rajiv. Thank you very much for asking me this very important question. You know, let me clarify that this UK thing and flights getting banned from today evening onwards has absolutely nothing to do with the curfew which we imposed. Now, as far as passengers from UK and rest of Europe coming in the next couple of days, they'll be put to institutional quarantine in various hotels of Mumbai. That is a separate issue, but we have been visiting or inspecting the various nightclubs, restaurants, pubs and marriage receptions in Mumbai quietly through our ward officers and our BMC teams. We found that the SOPs of not more than 50 gathering as advised by the state government, this is not being followed and it has been blatantly violated. In fact, we visited one nightclub by the name Epitome in Parel, where we got 2,000 people in one place in one single hall, all without masks. And past midnight, they're violating the timing, violating the mask, violating the number of people. And I'm told there were actually more than 2,000 people, but by the time we reached, a lot of people had sneaked out. Similarly, in the last 3 Saturdays, every Saturday, Sunday, we have been visiting 15 to 20 restaurants, pubs and nightclubs, and everywhere these violations are going on where hundreds of people are gathering past midnight till early 3 a.m., 4 a.m. So I had requested the government.
No, so what does that show?
We have to be very guarded and
Mr.
careful
Chair,
for-
Mr. Chair, the point therefore is that
please,
if you have been carrying out these raids for the last few weeks and now a very high profile one that the police has carried out at Hotel Marriott where a number of celebrities were found partying, what does that show? That shows possibly that in Mumbai, as Christmas, New Year is approaching, people have thrown caution to the winds, that all the various rules, restrictions that you had put in place, people are not following them. Isn't that one perhaps
Rajiv,
assumption that I am making?
Rajiv, you have hit the nail. Rajiv, you hit the nail. In fact, when the first inspection happened in various places past midnight, around 1 a.m. in the morning by BMC on the 5th of December, we had issued a request or a warning to all establishments that we give you 15 days time to pull up your socks, and if you don't follow discipline, then we'll have to do something else. But right from 5th December, the next 3 weeks, continuously, there was no improvement in the discipline, and people started assuming as there's no COVID in Mumbai left now. And because of that, despite our desire, despite our wish, we had no option, but as a matter of abundant precaution, we decided to put this night curfew, and that too also from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. only for 12 days, starting from today to 5th of January.
But you know, all of this of course comes on the back of this UK COVID strain. So the worry is that Mumbai could be hit by a double whammy, people partying as well as people now coming in at least till this evening on flights from the United Kingdom. So I want to understand, do you believe that the next 12 days could once again see a spike in COVID cases if people continue to party without social distancing? You seem to be suggesting that this is very widespread. You know, you raided one party in Marriott, but it's possible that this is extremely widespread at the moment in Mumbai. What action are you taking against the hotel owners or the various restaurant owners?
You know, Rajiv, whenever we have been inspecting these evening party places, whether they are clubs or restaurants or pubs or nightclubs, since first week of December, we have been finding people on the spot for not wearing masks, even at early morning, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. And we have been distributing free masks also, and we have been telling people not to repeat these violation of these SOPs. And you will be surprised that till now we have fined more than 1 million people in Mumbai. More than 10 lakh people have been fined for not wearing masks. And although we have kept the fine very low, 200 rupees, but that's the money is not the objective. Objective is to inculcate discipline and habit in the people to wear masks. And since 5th of December, when we started cautioning people, warning people that if you don't behave, then we'll be left with no option but to restrict your movement. So we decided that now as a precaution for these 12 days, when a lot of festivities may be coming and the crowds may go out of control, especially during New Year's Eve, we decided that from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m., these people should not violate by getting together in big numbers.
Okay. You know, a friend of mine from Mumbai was asking me this morning and I had no answer. He said, can we, short of large gatherings, are you allowing people to travel in the night? This is not a lockdown, this is a curfew. So therefore, if someone wants to drive off in the night for a quiet dinner with 3 or 4 people, they can do that. Am I correct? The curfew rules are only for large gatherings?
You know, let me make it very clear that this 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. is not a lockdown. Basically, our intention is that not more than 5 people should gather together. There should not be a crowd anywhere. People are free to travel in the night. they can use their own cars, they can be 3 or 4 people in the taxi. We won't have any, they shouldn't have any problem. The only issue was that when we visited a lot of marriages happening in these days, we were shocked that 800,000 people are attending a wedding, whereas our stipulation was 50 only. So we said that like you can have your evening functions starting from 6 p.m. to 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 p.m. But by 11 p.m. you must pack up. And after 11 p.m. also, there will be no restriction on movement. Basically, the restriction was on crowding and the problems which may come with the crowds.
You know, the worry, of course, Mr. Chahal, is that many of these people who are being found to be violators are celebrities, VVIPs. Now, we know what happens with VVIPs. They have connections at the very top in government. Can you give our viewers an assurance that if it's a VVIP celebrity, as you found yesterday at the Hotel Marriott when you all raided it, the police raided it, that no VVIP will also be spared?
Rajdip, you will be happy to know that in all these last 3 weeks, wherever we found violation, FIRs have been registered. And these nightclubs are owned, run by the high and the powerful ones. But we have not only given them show cause notices, we have formally issued, lodged FIR against these people. And I can share these FIRs with you. And I can assure you there will be no exception for anybody.
In general, Mr. Chahal, in conclusion, I want to ask you, as we head into the end of the year in 2021, are you reasonably confident that the situation in Mumbai is coming under control? Are you worried that there could be another spike in coronavirus cases?
Let me be very candid, Rajdeep. For the whole last 1 month, we have been getting 500, 600, 700 cases. And in the last 5 days, we have been getting less than 500 cases. Yesterday, we had only 453 cases from 24 wards. The average is just about 20 cases per ward, and each ward have a population of 8 lakh, 9 lakh. And out of this 20 cases per ward, 18 cases, 82%, were asymptomatic, which means that out of this 453 cases, we hardly had 40 to 45 symptomatic cases, just 2 cases per ward symptomatic who need a hospital bed. So we are in one of the most comfortable positions ever, and I can claim that today Mumbai is the safest metropolis in the entire world. And we want to keep that tag on, and to keep the tag on, all the restrictions like curfew for next couple of days, this has been, we have decided to impose the curfew just to maintain a tag that we continue to be the safest city in the world, and I'm sure we are slowly getting out of this problem.
Well, that is reassuring to know that we are slowly getting out of this problem, but as you said, festivities, Christmas and New Year will come every year. In 2020, we need to be a little careful before we go in for large gatherings. Just about time, Mr. Chahal, to wish you a happy New Year. I know you worked incredibly hard over the last several months. Let's hope that my city of Mumbai is up and running. The maximum city, the city that never sleeps, is up and running in 2021. Thanks very much for joining us. The news continues here.
Thank you, Rajdeep. Thank you very much. I'm so grateful to you. I'm so grateful to you, and I'm sure all of us, we are working together, and we'll come out of this problem very fast.
Okay, let's then turn to our final story, and it comes from the Singhu border, where, remember, the epicenter of the farmers' continuing agitation. Over there, our reporters are finding numerous stories of struggle and selfless service by the agitationists. One such story is that of a class 11 student from Punjab's Moga district, who has joined a team of volunteers to give, guess what, laundry service to the protesters. Maushmi Singh reports.
At his age, one would expect to find Parampal playing cricket or watching movies. Instead, here he is at the Singhu border. The class 11 student from Punjab's Moga has left his family behind to join the protests against the new farm laws. He and his team of volunteers are offering laundry services to the protesters.
अनलिमिटेड कपड़े धोते हैं हम।
क्या सोच के आप यहाँ पे आए हो, एक स्टूडेंट हो, कितना मुश्किल होता है?
मुश्किल तो होता ही है, तो हम अपने हक लेके जाएंगे तो हैं यहाँ।
Prince from Ludhiana brought 2 washing machines from his home to start the laundry service.
आज हमें 11 दिन हो गए जी इस सेवा करते हुए। पहले हम भी 26-27 तारीख को साथ में आए थे अपने संघर्ष में, और हमारे भी कपड़े गंदे हुए, घर कपड़े धुलवाने गए और दिमाग में आया कि जो हमारे किसान भाई हमारे साथ गए हुए उन्हें भी यही परेशानी, यही दिक्कत होगी। तो आते हुए पहले हम 2 मशीन लेके आए जी, और हमारे किसान भाइयों ने कल हमें और 2 मशीन और लगा दी यहाँ पे।
Protesters who avail of their laundry services are all praised for these young volunteers.
बहुत अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं। हाँ, बहुत अच्छा कर रहे हैं काम। हमें पकड़ है कि हम एक हो गए। हम धन्यवाद करते हैं मोदी का कि हमको एक कर दिया उसने।
देखो, हम सेवा करने आए हैं, सेवा करके हम मोदी को समझाना चाहते हैं कि मोदी तुम भी सेवा करो, पब्लिक की सेवा करोगे तो तुम्हारी बढ़ियाई होगी, जय जयकार होगी।
The winter chill, the cold water, nothing deters them. The youngsters brag proudly.
नहीं, ठंडी नहीं लगती, बिल्कुल भी नहीं ठंडी लगती। ये देखो हाफ बाजू है, बिल्कुल नहीं ठंडी लगती क्योंकि हम सेवा कर रहे हैं यहाँ।
कोई दिक्कत नहीं है, कोई सर्दी नहीं है। ये तो अपने मन का होता है कि ठंडी है, अगर मन में ठान लिया ठंडी नहीं है तो ठंडी होती भी नहीं है।
It's a story of triumph over ordeals. A young school student joining hands with a young team to make a difference and to serve the people at the Singhu border. The common thread that connects them is the will to survive and go on. With video journalist Prem, this is Mosmi Singh in Delhi.
Okay, let's leave you then with our image of the day. The Kilauea volcano on Hawaii's Big Island has erupted terrifyingly. Residents were advised to stay indoors following the eruption. Earthquake of magnitude 4.4 reported from the volcano's south flank. This is our image of the day. As always, stay well, stay safe. Thanks for watching News Without the Noise. Bye for now.